The Jewish Digital Cultural Recovery Project, JDCRP, is pleased to welcome you to the first presentation of the JDCRP Reading Room, conversations with authors whose books have enriched our understanding of looted art and of Jewish culture. The JDCRP focuses on bringing together the archives of all countries relevant to the cultural plunder of the Nazi era. And the JDCRP Reading Room aims to give priority to writers who address countries and topics that have received less attention to date than they deserve. Our inaugural guest speaker is Geert Sels, cultural editor of the newspaper De Standaard in Belgium, and a researcher associated with CEGESOMA, the Centre d'études Guerre et Société. I remember how somewhat over a decade ago, the Claims Conference and World Jewish Restitution Organization were concerned that there did not seem to be much development of research on cultural plunder in Belgium, when it became clear that this gap was being filled by Geert Sels. And so, although we sponsored research by others into the looting of Belgian libraries, we were pleased to wait for Geert Sels' book, Art for the Reich, Tracing Nazi Looted Art from Belgium, to be published. Now it has been published in both Dutch and French, and, if I understand correctly, soon in English as well. Geert Sels will present the subject, after which we will have time for discussion led by Diedre Berger, director of the JDCRP Executive Board. Please write your questions and comments in the chat. And now let me turn this over to Geert Sels.
Thank you so much for having me, and to the people in the audience, good evening, and thank you to be with us this evening. I confess that I wrote this book in Dutch, in French, and hopefully very soon in English. And now I have a problem to go to the next slide. Yes, okay. This is where it all started for me. You're all familiar with it. When I saw my colleagues from the French press and the Dutch press reaching out to their authorities to check on databases if there was something in the goodly trove from their country, I thought that it was a splendid idea, and I would like to do the same for the Standaard. But much was my disappointment when I found out that in Belgium there was no database at all, that there was no active research going on, that there was, unlike other countries surrounding us, there was no restitution committee. It was not all bad news, because there were some people in the administration with a lot of knowledge. As a matter of fact, they taught me a lot about the subject. They followed the art market, and they responded to requests of families and of auction houses and so. But the problem was they didn't have a mandate, because the subject was not on the political agenda. I suggested I go now with you through the prelude of the period that was before I published the book. So let's say from 2014 until 2022. Because I regularly wrote articles, and well, from time to time they were followed by parliamentary questions. So as we speak now, there are already more than 15 parliamentary questions. So what I did, I highlighted some of the answers of the ministers or the state secretaries, and mostly the answers came up to everything has been researched here and everything is okay in Belgium. But the good news is, in the course of the years, when I collected more evidence and my argumentation was more convincing, the authorities gradually took over my discourse, and they began to follow me. So the first thing that happened was a series of articles in 2014. I was much surprised that I got the prize of the investigative journalism, a Dutch Belgian prize. At that moment, I was very happy with it, but in hindsight, well, it's rather cynical that you need investigative journalism to find out that there is such a topic as Nazi looted art. And the first interpellations here, you see the answer of the minister was pretty defensive, saying there has been an active policy on this theme and it is permanently in motion, although I didn't have the impression that that was the case. Then it took me 2 years to come with a new series of articles. And then again, the answer was everything has been researched here. There are no indications of looted art in Belgium. The next publication here, I didn't write for the Standard, for the newspaper, but for a Belgian art magazine that asked me, would it be an idea to write a special issue about Nazi-looted art? And I agreed on the condition that we would make a naughty issue out of it. And they accepted. So what did we do? Because in Belgium, there was no database of the artworks that came back from Nazi Germany and that were hanging in our museums, we decided to publish the list in the magazine. And here on the right, you see the list of all the paintings, given the titles, the artists, and the museums. And then another thing we did, well, since I always got the answer, everything has been researched here, I thought, well, let's do the test. And you have to know that there has been research in Belgium. You could compare it to the Mattioli report in France or the Eckart report in the Netherlands. And in Belgium, it's the Buijse report. And I invite you to have a look at this because this slide is, it's a collector's item. Because when the report of the Buijse Commission was published, the team that studied art wasn't completely finished. So after some months, they came with an addendum. And this addendum is missing right now, but I invite you to write together with me, to read together with me what was in the report, because there was a summary of the different museums listing the paintings that were there. And then, for instance, for the Museum of Antwerp, it said that 19 out of 20 paintings that came back from Nazi Germany had provenance that was complete. For the Museum of Brussels, 25 out of 26 paintings had a provenance that was complete. For the Museum of Ghent, 3 out of 4 were okay. And then for example, the Rubens House in Antwerp, all 8 paintings were considered to have a provenance that was complete. So I thought, okay, let's do a little fact check on that, on these paintings, and I proceeded with the basis of the internationally accepted standards, where you have to have a provenance that is complete from 33 until 1945. And now let's have some fun and look, for instance, at this beautiful Lucas Cranach of the Museum of Antwerp. You read together with me that it was sold in 1943 by an art dealer from Brussels. So this painting has been in the collection of Goering. So you see, the first sign of life we have of this painting is 1943. We don't reach 1940, let alone 1933. And here I give you 2 more examples from the Museum of Fine Arts in Brussels. The left is a painting of Jos van Cleve. It has been in the collection of Hitler. I'm sorry, you won't be able to read it very well because it's a little bit blurred, but this painting was sold in 1941 by a certain Mr. Lagrand. So 1941, we don't reach 1933. And with Mr. Lagrand, we name one of the biggest people, most active, dynamic people on the Brussels art market on the field of collaboration. Moreover, in the database of Deutsches Historisches Museum, I find for this painting the mentioning that it could be Zwangsverkauf. So I wouldn't think here that we have a provenance that is complete. I consider it more as a very deep red red flag. The second painting on the right is a Roland Savray. It was in the collection of Goering. It was also sold in 1941 by the same Mr. Lagrand. And in the Deutsches Historisches Museum, I find a card of the monuments man saying, chosen by Goering at the Jeu de Paume. So everyone who is a little bit involved in provenance research knows what this means. So the conclusion was that of these paintings in the Belgian museums, more than 65%, and in that period I was still very, very mild, did have a provenance that was not complete. And this caused quite a stir in the Belgian parliament. Again, the answer was that everything had been studied and that no matches were made with looted artworks. But this was really the beginning of this was really a turning point. And the state secretary agreed we have to research these paintings, and she promised to set up a central database. I can tell you we are 7 years later now, and the database still isn't there. And then here is another article in the Standard, page 1 of the Standard, and this is a collaboration with Emmanuelle Polak. She had studied forced sale in Nice, in which there was a watercolor of Félicien Rops, and she thought that it might be in Belgium. And I managed to find it, to locate it in the Central Library in Brussels. And from that moment, very soon afterwards, in 2020, the watercolor has been claimed by the family. And I can tell you that 5 years later, the watercolor still hasn't been returned. In the parliament, then there was a question, would it be useful to search through the museum collections for looted art? And the minister said, I don't think it's opportune because the Buijsen Commission has done everything already. And then it was time to write my book, and I thought, okay, there are two things now that I want to do. My first aim was, since Belgium was a black hole and there was hardly any information available, I thought it would be my aim to provide as much factual information as possible. So at that moment, I had been working in the archives for 7 years. I took then a sabbatical from the newspaper of 1 year to write a book. And I thought that to do that in a detached academic style would not be my thing. So I wanted that the book was also available for a broader audience. I want to write it with empathy. I would use storytelling. And I even wrote the layer of storytelling of the research. It's part of the story, but I didn't want to vulgarize too much. I wanted to be scientifically correct, and therefore I added all the sources. It's full of footnotes, so that I could be responsible for what I wrote, and also so that researchers after me were able to retrace the material and the documents, and so that they could find it in the archives. Now, what did I do? I had the idea to offer information from different angles. So each of the 17 chapters has its own point of view, its own angle. And I start already in 1933 because, as you may know, Belgium was a kind of a transit country, and a lot of people from Germany and from Austria migrated to Belgium, hoping to get a boat visa for the United States and to escape. So that's why I started already in 33. I also wanted to explain why did the Nazis have such an extreme hunger for art. It was also obvious that they started their action immediately, already in the summer of 1940. They entered with hit lists in their hands in the temples of the Freemasons, and then very soon afterwards, the looting started. There is also a chapter on people stowing away their art and put it in deposits. A very big adventure for me as an art journalist was to write a financial and economical chapter, and for this I collected auction catalogs from 3 auction houses. I brought them together, and together with Kim Oosterling, that you might know, who is specialized in the study field of art market, we brought together 13,000 auction items. And the conclusion was, just like in France and in the Netherlands, that the art market had been flourishing as it has done never before. And then afterwards, we gave our 13,000 art data to the people of the provenance research team. There was a law chapter on law, of course, chapter on looting, about, I don't know if that existed in other countries, but in Belgium we had propaganda expositions. So Belgian artists did bring in work, and it was exposed and in traveling expositions in Germany, and a lot of cities bought art there. I also wrote a chapter on the interaction with France and Belgium, also the interaction of Belgium and Germany, because a lot of the people of the Rhineland gang came to Belgium to do their art shopping. I had a chapter on the recuperation of art after the war, which was very, very poor in Belgium, and also on the Belgian policy, which was a very critical chapter because the Belgian policy was also very, very poor. Also, in talking about providing information, I think I could provide information of a lot of names. I was very happy in the beginning that I could rely on the research of our dear host and that I could rely on the study findings of the ERR project. And so I was also very happy that I could, for instance, to light out a couple of them, write more about the Andries family, of which the JDCRP recently made an exposition that is still traveling. But very important case was also the Raeder family, and a case which moved me a lot and which was really a red line in my book because they pop up time and time again, was the story of Leon Schijvers. And also a very important one was the Hartveld family, from which I managed to find information in Paris, and there I could match it with Belgian information, and it allowed me to reconstruct the story. But I could also add extra names of victims, and to mention just a few. For instance, Mathilde Herzl. We all get news now from the United States, because there is always news about the collection of Fritz Grünbaum. Well, it was Mathilde Herzl was the sister-in-law of Grünbaum, and she brought in a lot of his collection through Belgium, and then again through Switzerland, and later to the United States. I also mentioned Gustav Meyer because there has been a restitution in 2022 in Brussels of a Corinth painting. So that's the painting of Gustav Meyer. And I also mentioned James Tuchla, who migrated from Germany to Belgium. And at this moment, there was a German provenance researcher who had read my book. And as a result of this, she managed to do a claim in a German museum. I could also provide a lot of information about international people who are very active on the Belgian art market. To name, for instance, Walter Page, who was operating from the Netherlands, Hans Herbst, who was operating from Austria, and Theo Hermsen, a Dutch citizen who operated from Paris, but through whose hand a lot of Belgian paintings went in the direction of Nazi Germany. I also added names and cases of Belgian art dealers. And here it's very important to mention Maurice Lagrand and Joseph Legenhoek. Maurice Lagrand operating from Brussels, who had a very close collaboration with his friend Joseph Legenhoek, who operated in Paris. And this way, a lot of paintings from Belgium went to Paris and further to Nazi Germany. I also mentioned René van den Broek, who was completely not on the radar until recently. And I also mentioned, and this is a hot topic, the name of Robert Girand, who was the director of the Museum of Fine Arts in Brussels. I went to study his private correspondence, and there I saw that he worked together with a middleman. As a matter of fact, it was a middlewoman who delivered his messages to people in Paris. And I was really embarrassed to see that those people in Paris, Jean Mettet and Martin Fabiani, were known as very key players on the French collaboration. So it is it's possible that through this art traffic line, looted art from Paris came in to Brussels and was further distributed. I also mentioned some German Verwalters from the Nazis that I haven't met with in other publications. And I also found several Belgian paintings in very important international institutions, such as the Metropolitan. I found two of them in the Getty Museum. I found in the Yale Art Gallery in Washington. There were several ones in the Narodny Museum in Prague. And I managed to find one artwork, one painting, a portrait that was looted by the Russian trophy brigades, and that was stolen from the Belgian embassy in Berlin, and I could retrace it in Yekaterinburg in Russia, and it was confirmed by the Russian art director over there. So I think here, with all those names and new cases, I delivered a whole bunch of information that was not known up to now, and that probably has never been taken into account by people who were busy on the international provenance research. So I think I can offer a lot of information for people who are working in this field. But then the second aim of my book was, I thought, well, now that I'm going to write a book, I want to go all the way. I won't be satisfied with another parliamentary question followed by a momentary indignation and with some arousal that usually didn't take long, sometimes followed by a promise, but in the end, most of the time, no action at all. So I thought I have to arrange something else. And I thought I want now that the Belgian authorities take initiatives and that they do the same thing and take initiative to do the same thing as the people, the countries around us, just like in the Netherlands or Germany or as in France or the UK. And I thought the only way to oblige the Belgian authorities to move and to act and take initiative is that there are claims, because then the Belgian authorities would be obliged to give an answer. And this answer would have to be based on a very reliable, factual information. And this information could only be made available by doing deep, profound, serious provenance research. So I managed to find a couple of cases that resulted in claims. Now, what did I do here? As a journalist, I could find a lot of information. What did I do? I gave my information to people who are busy in the international field with provenance research, with people who are busy with genealogical studies. I gave them the information, and there it stopped for me. But I was praying each night that it would come to claims, because then I would be able to sit and watch what the Belgian authorities would do next. So, and here is a first remarkable file from the Segal family, a Jewish family that lived in Berlin until autumn of 1938. And then they started to apply for visa at the Belgian embassy, which was refused 3 times. And then the 4th time, they worked with a lawyer who had a remarkable idea and who said, Belgium, dear Belgium, if you give these people a visa to come to Belgium, then the museum, and in this case, that was the Museum of Fine Arts in Brussels, can choose 10 art objects from their collection. And that is what happened. So I don't think you can speak here about a donation. In each case, it was a visa that has been paid much more than the normal price would have been. And here is an almost similar case from the Jewish art restorer Moritz Lindemann, a man who was working in Vienna, who also said to the Belgian authorities, I would like to have a visa for Belgium, and I would like to speak to you about some interesting paintings. And as a result, the door from Belgium went open for him, and he donated this portrait you see in the middle of Govert Flink, and the painting in black and white on the right, to the Museum of Fine Arts in Brussels, and then with the painting on top, which is an allegorical painting of Cornelis van Haarlem, he went to the Museum of Fine Arts in Antwerp and he sold it to get money. So this is also resulted in a case, in a claim in Antwerp and in Brussels. And here we have the story of Paul Rosenthal, who was a Jewish art dealer in Berlin, but very soon after the anti-Jewish Verordnungen, he was no longer allowed to do business. He fled from the country, lived in Switzerland, in the Netherlands, and then came to Belgium. And because he was collecting money to buy a boat ticket to the United States, he went to the Museum of Antwerp and sold this painting on top, which is a genre painting from Buitenweg. And below we see a Saverij painting to the Museum of Antwerp, and also for well, they could get a lower price. Mr. Rosenthal ended in Auschwitz, but the paintings are still in Belgium. So this is also a claim in the Museum of Antwerp. This is the case of Samuel Hartveld, who was a Jewish art dealer in Antwerp. He managed, together with his wife, to escape to the United States. I was working in the archives in Paris, I almost got a heart attack when I saw that there was a file on Hartveld, because in Belgium we didn't have so much information on him. We knew that his art gallery and his book collection was looted by the Nazis, but it was only when I was in France and put together the information that I found there that I saw that the rest of the stock of his paintings, which was left in Antwerp, had been given to a German Verwalter, and that his gallery was the subject of Aryanization and sold to a person, René van der Broek, for a very low price. The painting left on top, which was a classical subject about Aeneas leaving burning Troy. I could locate that in Tate Britain. This spring, the British Spoliation Committee decided that it would be restituted. The painting below with the hunting scene was in the possession of an art dealer, and he thought, well, if this painting has such a black history, I won't keep it. I'm not going to throw it on the market. I'm going to restitute it. He made an agreement with the family, and this spring it was sold at Dorotheum in Vienna. And then the painting on the right, the portrait, is in the Museum of Fine Arts in Ghent. It is claimed there, and now you see a very remarkable thing that in other countries where there is a restitution commission and where there are instruments and where everybody knows what to do when there is a claim, it goes fairly swiftly, whereas in Belgium, the instruments aren't available. And each time every claim is it is blocked because there is nothing to work with. So that really is a problem, and that explains why the claims in Belgium are going so slowly. Now, there is one other thing that I wanted to show you because it isn't even known in Belgium, and most people from other countries, other researchers don't know it either. And it's a thing that I discovered when I was making provenance chains of a couple of hundred paintings that left Belgium. And I saw then that there was a pattern, and that not all the paintings went directly from Belgium to Nazi Germany, but that a lot of them made indirect transfers. That is to say, a lot of them made a detour via the Netherlands and then to Nazi Germany, or made a detour through France and then to Nazi Germany. And because the monuments man made the agreement that they would send the paintings and the art objects that they found in Germany back to the country from which they had come into Nazi Germany, this still has consequences upon today, until today. And I will show you now a map, and I will show you some of the traffic lines. So a lot of those Belgian paintings went to the north via Mr. Walter Page, who worked from Amsterdam and who brought a lot of paintings to the collection of Göring, for example, and to different other people in Nazi Germany. A second traffic line was the Dienststelle Mühlmann, that is known in the international literature, operating from The Hague, and had to collect as much art as possible in the Low Countries, and the art was sent to Nazi Germany. And then next to the Dienststelle Mühlmann, you see a picture of Erhard Göppel, art historian, and here he was painted by Max Beckmann. He also was operating from The Hague, also trying to get as much art together, but only for the Linz collection of Hitler. I also discovered three traffic lines to the south. The first one was that most important Belgian collections that were looted were brought to Paris to the Jeu de Paume. For instance, that happened with the art collection of the Andriessen family. It happened also with the Lyndhurst collection. And from there, they were brought to Nazi Germany. A second traffic line by Belgian art dealers who worked as a middleman and who obtained art for the Nazis, brought it to Paris, and giving the paintings to the Nazis, from which they were brought to Nazi Germany. And then a third traffic line comes from Vienna, from the Dorotheum, where Hans Herbst was very active. He came to the Low Countries. He was active in the Netherlands, in Belgium, also in Paris, very, very active. So there are a lot of paintings from Belgium that went to Paris that were brought by Hans Herbst to the Dorotheum and find their way to, for instance, the Führer Museum and also to the Narodny Museum. Now, these traffic lines have consequences until today because it has consequences for the research. for a researcher in Belgium, you cannot stop by looking only in Belgium archives. So not only the paintings went to Netherlands, but also the traces they left behind and the documents. So you also have to look in the archives in the Netherlands. Same thing for France. There is considerable information from Belgium cases in the archives in France. And then a second consequence upon today is that art that was discovered in Nazi Germany was brought to the country from which they were brought into Nazi Germany, as the monuments men agreed. And as a result, there is still a lot of art in other countries, art with a Belgian background. For instance, those 4 paintings from Belgium are still, they're brought to the Netherlands, but they never came back to Belgium. So all those paintings are in custodianship of the national collections. They're either kept in the national depots, or they are on loan in the museums, and some of them are even shown, such as the little black and white thing, Franz Franken, in an embassy. Here you see more from in the Netherlands, and here is also more from the Netherlands. Here are paintings with the Belgian backgrounds that are still in Germany. I talked about the claim in Germany, which is the painting at the bottom at the right, the Wouwerman. There are also paintings and artworks, a Gobelin, for instance, with the Belgian background that are in France. The portrait that you see and the Gobelin have been restituted by France in 2022. Well, this is something new, I think. And now this is the last slide. I want to say something more about the impact of the research. There are 2 things that happened already in the period that preceded the publication of the book, and that was that one, there was a promise to set up a database of the orphan objects, which, as I told, is still not there. The minister also suggested to give project subsidies for museums that were willing to work on provenance, which I think is not the way to go, because it's only for those who volunteer, and whereas I think it should be an obligation. And then on the evening of the book presentation, the State Secretary announced a research project, Provenance, in the Museum of Brussels, which you may have heard about it. There are doctoral researchers now, and they are working, and I'm sure they will come with results very soon. There is a parallel project in Flanders, in the Museum of Antwerp. There is also a research project, also people who will come with results. There is a law professor that was asked to write a report with rules of conduct for Belgium, and this report exists. It has been delivered. I haven't seen it, but I've been told it's there. And then in 2024, we had a new Flemish government, and I was very happy to see that the subject of Nazi-looted art was accepted in the coalition agreement. So now that means that the political parties will work on it, and that at a certain moment they will have to come with results. Based on the report of the law professor, there is now a specialist commission who is now working with to define the rules of conduct, and they are busy with it, and they will have to report this autumn. And as a result of that, by the end of this year, a restitution committee would see the light in Belgium. So I think we managed to advance some stones in the river.